Hello and welcome to day 2 of testing here in Bahrain, and this is what we have learned on day 2. Will Buxton and Jolyon Palmer alongside me. Obviously we had our first day yesterday, we've had 8 hours of running, 16 now, 8 hours left to go. And for day 2, Ferrari very much the story of the day, well aren't they? After that drain cover, we all had flashbacks to Las Vegas, didn't we?
Yes, I think Ferrari had nightmares. It was... Look, I think a really, really positive day for Ferrari. Quickest in the morning session with Leclerc, quickest of the day and quickest of the afternoon for Carlos Sainz, who put up a ton of laps, did a load of race sims. Car looked great, car looked fast, no issues for them other than that drain cover coming up at about the third hour, I should say, of the morning, which curtailed running by an hour. But I don't know if you agree, Johnny, I thought they looked a step on from yesterday. Car didn't look as twitchy.
Yeah, definitely. It looked more compliant generally, and they were certainly focused more on one lap pace, weren't they, than they were yesterday, and that was obvious with Carlos chucking on the C4s, and they were just low fuel running through a lot of the day and got a load of laps in. Car looked good, had to do a floor change because of that damage, but didn't seem to even interrupt their run plan. Obviously the whole day changed a little bit, so they didn't lose out. Good day for them.
Yeah, for sure. Not forgetting it's the C1, 2 and 3 here for race week next week. But of course, C4 and C5 available to all teams during testing. Ferrari, one of the teams with both C4 and C5 as well. And Carlos setting their fastest time of the day on that slightly softer compound. Will, you then spoke to Charles Leclerc, didn't you, to glean some information about how the day of running had gone?
Well, yeah, he was quite surprised to find out that Carlos Sainz had actually been standing trackside just before he hit the drain cover. And
yeah.
Carlos had gone to find a marshal to say, can you put the yellow flag out because something's just come up off the track, and then he sees his teammate coming along, boom, collects it, and they're a floor down. But yes, talk to Charles about the car, testing, but it is testing, so random chat, and I think the most important and pertinent questions of the entire week.
Okay, here we go. Let's hear it then.
Throwing massively ahead to the future, but you have a new teammate next year. Can we expect an album? A duet between you and Lewis? That's what everybody wants to know.
Oh, well, if it's what everybody wants to know, then I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know. I haven't spoken about music too much with Lewis yet. We discussed about it last year, and he was telling me that he loves music, and I don't know. I'll speak with him from next year onwards about a potential collaboration.
Lovely.
Well, Ferrari and indeed Charles Leclerc's potential musical career with Lewis Hamilton may have topped the headlines on day 2. On day number 1, of course, it was Max Verstappen. That lap time, 1.1 seconds clear, and the enormous number of laps he completed as well in the RB20. They seemingly looked infallible. Perhaps not so today, though, Will, with Sergio Perez at the wheel, but a few problems arose. How did you see it?
Yeah, it wasn't a perfect day for Red Bull, certainly not one that we would expect from the team. Fire on the right front, the brakes in the early part of the running, then some electrical gremlins creeping in through the latter half of the day, which Sergio Perez wasn't even supposed to complete. He was supposed to just do the first half a day. Max Verstappen was supposed to be all done for testing now, but because the morning was curtailed an hour early, they decided just to keep Sergio in for the whole day after that. But yeah, again, when the car's heavy with fuel, or looks heavy with fuel, and on the hard tyres, it doesn't look as great as it does when they just take a bit out and stick it on the medium tyres. And Checo not looking quite as happy as Max yesterday, certainly not with the top time of the day as Max had yesterday, but just a few little gremlins creeping in.
I'm seeing 2023 again. I mean, the gremlins come in when Checo's in the car. Max has had such a good run over life. It's been nearly 2 years since he had a DNF.
That's an extraordinary stat when you said it to me yesterday. Yes.
Wow, man.
So crazy.
And Checo's had more than he's had a few more DNFs anyway for mechanicals, and he got a couple of small issues today. He just didn't look as comfortable in the car either. Max was so silky smooth at the wheel, looked like he had confidence in it yesterday. And Checo looked decent, absolutely fine, but he wasn't able to turn in and commit to that entry like Max was. He was having to correct it a couple of times, and it's just shades of 2023 still that Checo's, I don't think, as comfortable with this car as we saw pretty early on from Max yesterday.
Okay, thank you, Jolyon. Do make sure you continue to tune in, though, because we're hoping that it will be slightly more competitive than perhaps 2023 was.
We can all hope. We can all hope.
We shall see. Let's hear now from Sergio Perez on how his day 2 here went.
Generally speaking, I think it's definitely a step forward in the right direction with the car. it's obviously a very tricky track, with the morning to the afternoon, dialing in some setup and getting to understand each setup compound. It's very tricky because the track is changing pretty much every outing, so you have to base everything pretty much on your feeling.
So another team who may still have been running toward the top of the timing sheet, still looking good, was McLaren, but they also were not without their issues today. Will, you were down in the pit lane
I was.
next to the car of Lando Norris during one of those issues.
Yeah, so McLaren, I think, had a great day yesterday. Let's just get that straight off the bat. And I think are looking competitive and fast. But Lando did have a technical gremlin at the end of the day. It was a fuel pump issue. Lost about an hour's worth of running out on track. So, again, you want this thing to happen in testing, not to happen over the first race weekend. And they'll be glad that that has happened. So not a perfect day for them. But still, again, a pretty consistent day. Car looked good. Car looked fast. We're not going to see headline times out of McLaren because they, like Alpine, haven't brought the C4 or the C5 tyre with them. They are purely sticking to the tyres that we will have at the race weekend next weekend. So they're focused very much on that opening Grand Prix.
And actually, I think, Jolyon, there comes a point where we need to stop saying, well, it's night and day compared to this time last year, because last year was such an anomaly. They should never have been as bad as they were last year, by their own very high standards and admission. So now McLaren can't rest on that. They have to keep pushing on, don't they?
Yeah, I can't remember a time they were as good as they are now, though. It's not happened for a very long time for McLaren having a winter like this in terms of pace. For me, they're the dark horses at the moment. They're not showing a lot. I think they're keeping their cards close to their chest generally. They did that at the launch. They've done that this week. But I do think they've got some inherent pace there. The car looks quite good. Reliability niggles are never ideal. But Lando managed to get out again at the end of the day. And I feel like they're in a very good place. Maybe not Red Bull, but maybe not a million miles away.
It's tough, I think, at the moment to really pick between Ferrari and McLaren in terms of who is going to be that closest competitor to Red Bull. And because we're not going to see any C4 running from McLaren, that's going to be a question mark that won't be answered.
That's what I feel. Ferrari are showing us what they've
Yes.
got, and I think McLaren are not. And they are probably the two at the moment that I would say are going to be hopefully getting close to Red Bull.
Oh, fascinating. What about Mercedes then? Lewis Hamilton enjoying some of the track through the evening there as the sun set, and we saw the lights come on and the car seemed to come alive. It certainly looked a much more comfortable car to drive than what we saw last season.
Yeah, I think a little bit of low fuel, new tyre running at the end gave him a more sort of representative time compared to the Ferraris and everybody around him. They're still trying to get their heads around this brand new concept. For Lewis, it's his first time in this car, in this concept, just as it was for George yesterday. It's about learning, it's about understanding. They have, possibly more than anybody in this pit lane, with the exception of Alpine, who've changed pretty much everything on the car, I think the most to learn and the most to really take away from this week in terms of the data that they accumulate and the learnings and the understandings that they take from their car. You cannot overstate what a huge job it will be for them to get that full understanding of this car in 3 days.
Your thoughts on Lewis Hamilton in the car today, Jolyon?
I'm not convinced. Lewis did a good lap at the end, a couple of decent runs, showed that the car's got potential there, but it's not a big surprise. We said they've got some decent conceptual ideas, and I think that's coming to fruition. The more laps that they do, the better they're going to get an understanding, exactly as you say, Will. But when I was out watching, I saw Lewis fighting the car more than any other car. And even in the afternoon, okay, he definitely took a bit of fuel out and had a decent crack on the new tyres. But before that, I still just don't know if they've got a hand on the balance. Maybe when they do that, it'll be really quick, but they look like they're troubleshooting more than their rivals, I would say.
So you're unconvinced as things stand on Mercedes.
That's the most diplomatic answer, isn't it?
That is the official line coming from the Jolyon Palmer camp. Aston Martin, thoughts?
Yeah, not as many laps on the board for Fernando this morning because obviously the session was pulled short. Good lap times out of Lance Stroll this afternoon. Another team that I don't think we've seen everything out of. I think, again, they're going through their testing program, sticking to the plan and not showing their full hand. Are they quicker than Mercedes? Possibly at the moment. Are they on terms with McLaren and Ferrari? It's so hard to say right now because it's only day 2 of testing, but they could be, or they could be just narrowly behind them.
Will we see more of what's in their locker tomorrow, Jolyon?
I hope so. I think
You
we're
want
going
the
to see.
power hour, don't you?
I'm
Jolene's
looking
been calling for
I
power hour all day.
want to see soft tyres all round. There's some teams have shown a bit more than others. I mentioned the Ferrari and McLaren paradox that's going on, but there are others, and Aston Martin's another one that haven't really shown their hands so much, I don't think. Fernando's certainly shown glimpses of pace. He looks quite comfortable in the car, but they're a little bit of a mystery overall. I think the car looks absolutely decent, but so do so many of the cars out there. There's not many cars that drivers are having to wrestle with this year.
This is it. I feel like, once again, this fight for P2, the fight for Q3 is going to be so intense this season. And I hope it's actually a fight for wins as well. But the fight for P2, second best, is looking almighty already. We'll move through the rest of the paddock. Hot or not?
Okay.
Here we go. Sauber.
Oh, I was actually really impressed with Sauber today. Decent running. They said that yesterday was mostly about trying to gain an understanding of their new front suspension concept and trying to kind of figure out where they are, particularly in the slow speed corners, because they were really struggling with them yesterday. I think a much better day. Headline times from Bottas and Joe looked competitive when they set them at those times of day. So, yeah, for me, Sauber didn't look too bad today.
Okay. So lukewarm, warm, a rolling boil. Where do they sit?
Tepid. Look, I think Red Bull look hot, and you've got a few teams up there that are looking good. I don't know where their ultimate pace lies, but they've had a good day based on what they wanted to achieve. So for them, they've had a hot day.
A hot day for Sauber.
For them.
For them.
But that's comparative as to where they expect themselves to be.
Got ya. Okay, Jolyon, Alpine.
They're having a pretty chilly time this week. They're trying to. That's the thing, though. They're not trying to grab our attention because they're just going methodically through a run plan. They set out they're still pretty low last week when they launched the car, and they've actually said we might be better than you think, guys.
Yeah.
The car looks okay, like so many others. They look ballpark, but they've just had so much fuel in it the whole time that when you have fuel, it's going to look a bit lazy. It's going to be a bit weighty, and I don't think that is the natural performance of the car. I'm still putting them bottom half. But I guess when the technical director is saying, don't discount us, I'm not going to discount them.
Absolutely, not showing their hand, shall we say. So maybe a tepid for Alpine at the moment, but by their own choice. Okay, next up, Haas. Will.
So I was talking to Pete Kroller in the pit lane today. I know we heard from Ayo Komatsu during the broadcast, and they're pretty happy with the work they've got done. They're plugging the laps in. Everything is seemingly going okay for them, but their expectations were already set low. So a good day when your expectations are low is easier to achieve than if your expectations are high. For them, good for what they expected, but they didn't expect much.
I spoke to Nico Hülkenberg earlier on as well, and he was very much of the same sort of opinion. He said there's a very positive vibe throughout the team. It's a happy place to be at the moment. He's enjoying having Ayu at the helm as well. Obviously a change from Günther Steiner for the last few seasons. And he's saying the car is a step on from last year, but they've got to find that pace come Sunday. It's all very well having a car that can qualify in the way that Haas did last year, but points are won on the Sunday. Jolyon, coming to you, the RB.
The RB still looks a decent car.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying a lot of people in the paddock, the rival teams, looking at the RB. I think they've made the step forward. Daniel Ricciardo on the soft tyre at the end didn't wow me with his pace, but the car still looks nice and it looks kind of a step on from what it did yesterday. Middling, absolutely middling, and I still think they're going to be aiming to jump into that mid-pack, maybe with Alpine, maybe getting closer to some of the big boys.
You think a Q3 for them, or just outside Q3? Like 6th best, 7th best, around there,
I think
them and Alpine?
We've got 4 or 5 big teams, haven't we? Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes, Aston Martin, if we think Aston Martin's there.
Yep.
Are RB going to be knocking around there? Quite possibly.
That's a huge step on
Big step.
obviously
But remember
2023
Mexico,
AlphaTauri.
they were qualifying 4th.
Absolutely.
And it's not just the work of from 12 months on, from the back to the front. It's taken 6 months, little bits, and they finally got there.
They have indeed. I think we've gone through 9 teams. I'm not very good at maths, though. Williams,
Yes.
last team to go through.
Williams. So a better day than yesterday in terms of reliability with the car. Still a couple of issues. And Logan still just doesn't look comfortable in the car, really, at all. So I know that they will be keeping calm and not getting too carried away with the results from today. Alex Albon, we heard from in commentary, seemed pretty confident, pretty happy with how things are progressing. But I don't think we can assume they will start the season where they finished last, which was in 7th place. I think they will have, because of what RB has done, potentially what Sauber has done as well. I think they will have dropped.
Any thoughts on Williams finally? Logan got a really good number of laps done at least today.
Reliability was much better. I'm feeling a bit underwhelmed still with Williams. They at least got the laps in, and that's what they need to learn with this car. Alex was saying today, they've changed so much on it. Even the feeling through the steering is very different because they changed the front geometry. So you do need laps as a driver as much as the team to get on top of it, and they didn't get that yesterday. At least Logan did today. Alex Albon back in the car tomorrow. I think that'll be the bigger test of where Williams are at, and they'll need him to have a good day to pick up, at least hopefully trying to get through past Q1, I'd say, next week.
So as it stands, Red Bull at the top.
Okay.
Here we go.
Then probably, I think we can agree. Then Ferrari
And lure us into joining you on this.
Ferrari and
You're on your
McLaren pretty evenly matched. Aston and Mercedes, question marks over both. RB, Alpine, then that kind of Sauber, Haas, Williams, or Sauber, Williams, Haas.
I am not nailing my colours to any mast whatsoever. I'll leave that very much to you, Will Buxton, keeping my powder dry as many of the teams may be. Finally, let's hear then from Logan Sargent.
We still had a couple issues throughout the day. Honestly, helped that the red flag came and they extended the afternoon session. But yeah, I think generally a positive day. We made good headway in the right direction. We know the direction we need to keep heading in. And yeah, there's a lot of positives. I think there's plenty of things that we still need to fix, but yeah, it's heading in the right direction.
A lot of laps then for Logan Sargent as Williams continue to search for answers in their 24 machinery, as all of our 10 teams do, and just one more day to find them. 8 more hours of running tomorrow for day 3. That is almost what we have learned for testing on day 2. I think I got that in the right order. What are you both looking forward to tomorrow?
I think I know what Jolyon's looking forward to.
Power Hour.
Power Hour.
The soft tyres. I want to see, there's a lot of teams that have got some C4s to use up, and it just means that they're most likely taking the fuel out of the car, and you can see what would be a fully fledged qualifying sim, and maybe gives us a slightly better steer of where people are at. I'm ready for it tomorrow.
That final hour, 2 hours, we'll start to see it.
The best of the track, the cars in their final configuration in theory before the race week next time. The drivers as honed in as they can be. That's the good stuff.
Representative, isn't it, Will?
Yeah, hopefully the team's just showing us a little bit more of what they've got. Obviously, with the exception of McLaren and Alpine, we're not going to see, I don't think, the headline times from them, but let's see what everyone else has got when they just start to turn it up a little bit. Excited for that.
We shall see. We will not have one of these wonderful videos for you tomorrow. Instead, we're going to be live here in the paddock, both on F1 TV and, of course, on YouTube as well. So do make sure you come back tomorrow night after testing. Well, come back in the morning, actually. Join us for all 8 hours of testing tomorrow. And then afterwards, we'll be looking back over the 3 days and looking ahead, of course, to the Bahrain Grand Prix race week. It is almost there. After a very long winter away, Formula One is almost back. Race weekend is fast approaching. Thank you very much, Will. Thank you very much, Jolyon. We will see you all tomorrow for day 3 of testing.